Hello, I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics, once again in Zoom format. Today we'll talk with Kansen Chu and Otto Lee, the candidates for County Supervisor in District 3. They emerged from a four-person contest in June as the top two candidates, and now they face each other in the November runoff. District 3 includes Sunnyvale, Milpitas, North San Jose, Berryessa, and Evergreen. It's a majority-minority district where the registered voters are 42% white, 40% Asian, 16% Latino, and 2% African American. And Democrats outnumber Republicans 3-1. We'll ask the candidates what they think of the way the county has handled the COVID-19 pandemic, reforms of law enforcement practices of the sheriff, dealing with homelessness, and much more, including questions from several District 3 constituents. And that's what's coming up on Valley Politics. Welcome, everyone, and welcome Otto Lee and Kansen Chu. Gentlemen, we have limited time today, so try to keep your answers to around a minute. You can go a little bit longer if you need to. We'd like to cover as much territory as possible, and we do have some questions from constituents, which we'll get to in just a minute. But I want to start with just asking you what you're hearing as you talk to constituents in your, sprawling district, as it goes from Sunnyvale to Milpitas, North San Jose, Berryessa, down to Evergreen. So Kansen, starting with you, what are you hearing from residents? What are their concerns about county government?
They're definitely concerned about the inequality, racial inequality, and during this pandemic. They're very concerned about the health, the mental health, because a lot of people lost their job. Their health insurance is tied to their employment. And because this shelter in place, distance learning, give really the people a lot of stress, especially those parents with young children. Now they not only have to be a parents, they also need to be a teacher. So they will always worry about, am I a good teacher or not? So health is definitely a big issue to them. And secondly, I will probably say a job, job protection and the job opportunity. If I can use a third one, I will say public safety, because they're looking for some kind of a reform, and I supported to use the best practice that we have around the world, and train our peace officers, to do the best they can to protect our property, to protect our safety. So is that 1 minute?
Okay, that's pretty good. Thank you. Otto Lee, what are you hearing?
Yeah, thank you, Terry. The county is the public safety net for our community here, for all 15 cities, from Palo Alto down to Gilroy. It's a very large area, and even in our district, that goes from North Sunnyvale to Albizo to Milpitas and Evergreen and Berryessa. The needs of rising inequality, homelessness, our housing costs is basically getting ridiculous. And of course, maybe right now, not so much traffic jams, but certainly something that we have been worried about before COVID. And of course, also the unsafe neighborhoods that we are facing. Under COVID, of course, the issue people are very concerned is about safety and how the county is dealing with it in terms of the shutdown and how the reopening. Is it really safe? Or are we being too strict on not allowing a lot of business, like currently, like salons and haircuts, barbers cannot reopen? We certainly need more affordable housing for our seniors, our teachers, students, and the veterans who protected us. But also the issue of mental health services is very serious. They are living in the streets, and we heard that the domestic violence issues and mental health is extremely severe now that people are trapped in their homes. So these are the issues that I'm hearing in the community. along with the zip codes. The 4 zip codes on the east side of the county clearly has been most affected by the number of cases of COVID and also death as well. So the unequal access to the test is something that people are very concerned about.
We'll get back to several of those issues because a lot of people are interested in those, as you've already learned and told us. Otto, we'll let you start with the next question. And this is actually more about the pandemic, which is actually getting worse rather than better, and about decisions about opening up. The county's public health officer and county executive have been criticized for opening too slowly. But I wonder what you think the role of the county supervisors should be in the opening up process. Should the supervisors be pushing them to go faster or to slow down? What's the role of the supervisors in this decision making?
Yes, that's a great question. The current officer in charge is Dr. Sarah Cody, who is the public health officer of our county, who of course reports to our county chief executive, Dr. Jeff Smith. The prior county supervisors hired Dr. Smith as the chief executive, so there's a bit of a layer of differences. However, the edict of how the county gets shut down in terms of shelter in place is something that clearly is ordered by the public health safety officer, and it's actually by state law. The way the law governs is that they don't really want the politics per se to be dictating the issue. But at the end of the day, last I checked, we're still a democracy. County supervisors clearly have a very important role to make sure that information is being given to our constituents in a transparent and accurate manner. For example, I certainly agree with the way how the shelter in place was being ordered very early, because obviously we have done it a week or two later, there'll be far more cases and deaths. But at the same time, I don't believe the transparency, at least in the beginning, was sufficient. Only about 3 weeks ago did we find out where the most highly impacted zip codes were, for example, and that's the type of information I believe we need to have far more earlier, so that we know where to direct our resources for testing and treatment to those most highly affected low-income neighborhoods. For example, those 4 zip codes I talked about in the east side, and we need to make sure our county supervisors is involved to make sure that the resources are going to where it's most needed.
Kansen Chu, what's the role of the county supervisors in opening up the economy?
In terms of this COVID-19, we have the similar situation in the state legislature. Whether we as an elected body should take over this control of emergency health services, but we choose to leave it to the professionals for one reason, they're the professionals. Secondly, if we got interfere with all those decisions, then it may slow down the process. So for the efficiency reason, we also let the health officer to making the call. And I have to say that the Santa Clara is doing very good. And there are definitely some, this is behind after the fact. We can point it out. There's some areas that need to be improved, and we are learning from this pandemic process, and as a nation, as a state, and as the local city and county government. We're not perfect, but definitely we are learning.
Okay, thank you, Kansen. Here's our first constituent question. It's from Gerson Castro, who's a teacher in Sunnyvale.
Hello. Given the ongoing protests about law enforcement, what, if any, reforms do you plan to propose for the Sheriff's Department, both for patrolling and in the jails? Thank you.
Kansen, we'll start with you on this one.
Definitely, first of all, we need to learn from what's the best practice around the world and train our peace officer to a much higher standard. I know that currently the county supervisor just earlier, a couple of days ago, has approved a plan for the sheriff to implement, and that also include the last ranking peace officers at the scene to have the power of intervene if there's an excessive force being used. And I think that's a very big cultural change. You know, the police, as well as in the military, the seniority means a lot when they go out to the public. And I have read the report that talking about some of the airplane accident, and they find out if the co-pilot can communicate those situations, can intervene, can communicate those situations to the pilot, which is their senior officer, in a more affirmative way, that could save a lot of life. So I know it sounds like an easy ask to say, hey, if you just joined the force yesterday and you see something wrong with your senior officers who's been there for 20 years, you need to be able to get out and intervene. And I think that will improve our public services a lot.
Okay, thank you. Otto Lee, law enforcement reform.
Yes, as we have seen from the George Floyd videos and so many other ones from Breonna Taylor on the Marbury recently, the need for reform of our police treating our citizenry is clearly long overdue. It goes from hiring, it goes from training. Hiring as in making sure that we do not hire police officers that's been fired somewhere else, and keeping track of a database of those cops that are not supposed to be in the service because of all the bad acts that they have done to not get them hired. That's first part. Second, in terms of the training, I think the de-escalation training is far important because the citizenry are not enemies. They are our boss, basically. We serve them. And I think it's so important to keep that relationship clear. Demilitarize our police forces. I don't see any reason why flashbangs, for example, something I see in Iraq being used by our soldiers, is being used in our own cities. That makes no sense. The use of tear gas has to be far more limited on the use of force policy. We need to revisit those. And San Jose yesterday just banned the use of rubber bullets, as we have seen how those have been quite indiscriminately used by the police, causing blindness or infertility, depending on where it's being shot at. So there are so many things that we need to do. I'm not sure I can handle all this in 1 minute, but these are all the things that we really need to get together to make this work at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. Our next question comes from Wee Tran. Wee's an attorney who lives in Berryessa.
Hi, candidates. We've recently heard widespread calls to re-envision law enforcement and focus more on the social services that address the root causes that often lead to police calls, such as mental health support and homelessness. What specific steps or proposals will you lead on to expand mental health support and homeless services to take away these responsibilities from law enforcement? Thank you.
It's a great question. Our law enforcement officers are not mental health professionals, and they should not have to deal with it. We really need to redirect our resources to the mental health counselors and the social workers. The first responder of mental health problems should be mental health professionals, not police or sheriff. First responder for homeless individuals should be social workers. We need more nurses and counselors at schools and not rely on the police for behavior problems. So for example, some concrete thing we could try to do. How about this? Starting in 2021, let's engage with our community stakeholders to create 63 more positions of social workers or mental health counselors. How about 21 more new social workers, 21 more mental health professionals, and 21 more family and child counselors? These are the folks that is really needed to deal with these very fundamental problems and inequity that we see in our community, in our schools. And I think this is the type of thinking we need to help to solve the problems we have now instead of relying on the police to do these work for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Kansen Chu?
Definitely, you know, when I served on this Santa Clara Behavioral Health Board, we have introduced a CIT training, crisis intervention training for all the peace officers. And now we have also included this 40-hour training in the new cadet training as well. And 4 years ago, working with Senator Bell, we have also pushed this training into all the CHPs. So again, we need the peace officers to answer a lot of domestic violence call. I think the best practice is to also call a social services personnel, if it's possible, to be at the scene, because talking about city of San Jose, when I joined the San Jose City Council, we have 1,400 police officers patrolling this 1 million population city of 1 million. When I left the city council, we have down to 900 police officers. And remember, they are 3-shift operations. So at any given time, we have less than 300 police officers patrolling our city. And they don't like they got into the job truck to go after the bad guys. They don't like to answer the call for homelessness and so on and so forth. So we need to first give the peace officers adequate training, as well as increasing our staff in the social services department.
Okay, thank you. Now we have our lightning round, gentlemen. So this is answers of 1 word, maybe 2 words, and quick. And we're going to start with Kansen. Which current county supervisor do you most admire?
Cindy Chavez.
Otto?
Dave Cortese.
Sorry?
Dave Cortese.
What's your favorite county park, Otto?
I would say there's so many. I just went to the one in Milpitas. I thought that was outstanding, all the way from here.
Okay, Kansen, your favorite county park?
I would say Hellular.
Okay.
Park.
Kansen, here's a choice. Mercury News, Spotlight, San Jose Inside, or NBC Bay Area?
Well,
Pick one.
Spotlight.
Okay. Otto?
I would say San Jose Mercury News. They're all very good, actually. But they
Okay.
endorsed me, so at least I should support them. Thank you.
Otto, do you support or oppose the initiative on the November ballot that would reform property taxation on commercial and industrial property with increased funds to go to schools and communities? It's a Prop 13 reform, as you know. Support or oppose?
Third row, yes, support.
Kansen?
Yes, strongly support the school and community. And I have a bill moving toward in the legislature.
Okay, that's more than 1 word. Kansen, the next one's for you to start with. Do you support or oppose the November referendum measure that would repeal bail reform?
To repeal bail reform, definitely. I'm being a strong supporter.
You support repeal?
No. We support zero
Support bail reform.
the bail. I don't know the language of.
Yeah, I know it's tricky with referenda. Otto, what about you?
Yes, I do support the reform of our current bail system.
Okay, Otto, supervisors all serve on multiple regional agencies. Which would you prefer?
VTA,
VTA, Valley Transit Authority. Kansen, what about you?
I
Regional
would
agency,
say MTC.
Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Kansen, should the Valley Transportation Authority have an elected board of directors?
Yes.
Otto?
I agree as well, yes.
And this is a tough one, Otto. 49ers, Sharks, or Earthquakes?
Actually, absolutely 49ers. I've been a fan since I was 7 years old.
All right, one word.
Kansen?
Sharks!
It's all right.
Sharks!
All right, we're going back to the 1-minute answers now. Starting with you, Kansen. What's your position on ACA 5, the proposed constitutional amendment that would repeal Prop 209, the 1996 initiative that banned affirmative action in California?
You know, I took a neutral position on that because I think the biggest barrier for equal education is the cost of education. So as throughout my career as a public servant, I have been advocating for lowering the higher education and increase the funding for K-12 education, actually preschool to 12 education. And I'm very proud to say over the years as a state assembly, we've been able to definitely waive the cost for all of our community colleges. And even in this very, very difficult year, we fought hard to make sure that the budget that we will be voting on tomorrow spare the education and spare the lower ed as well as the higher ed. The biggest equalizer, I believe, is the financial resources. You know, I have received many of communication, more than 30,000, and they were really concerned about the affordability. Some of them, not all of them, they oppose for all different reasons, and including our former Congressman Mike Honda. He was strongly opposing it, but I took a neutral position so I can have this discussion with my colleagues to focus on continue increase the wages and continue to increase the funding for pre to 12 education and continue lowering the cost of higher education. Because I came to the United States as an adult graduate student with 2 luggage full of textbooks. You know, I didn't come to the United States with a family wealth. So I wanted to definitely focus on those people that see the tuition, the cost of a higher education is a barrier. So we'll be able to benefit all. Thank you.
Thank you. Otto Lee, ACA 9?
ACA 5.
Yeah, ACA 5, sorry.
To overturn Prop 209. So Prop 209 was wrong 25 years ago. It's still wrong today. If anything, it's even clearer. I think I'm quoting a phrase I read earlier, I think it was the LA Times, that says that we're pretending that we're living in a colorblind meritocracy for the past 24 years. Clearly didn't make it so. If anything, we have seen most recently, we know that the George Floyd incident has really woken up the country of the inequality on this issue of race. Some people thought that when Barack Obama got elected as president, we have a black president, so there's no more racism, and that can't be further from the truth. The fact that one person is able to achieve that well does not mean the rest of the African-American race or the Latinos are doing just as well, and we've seen that. And this mistake that was made 24 years ago, I think needs to be changed. One more thing is I myself am a product of affirmative action. I went to UC Berkeley, I went to Hastings Law School, and actually participate in the LEOP program, which is the affirmative action program to help me as a Chinese American, an immigrant, English as a second language, to get in, and also to help me strive during the, especially first year in law school, which is very difficult. Frankly, my writing wasn't very good in the beginning, and through that program, it's helped me get through law school. So therefore, I'm a strong believer because I understand the importance of how you can lift many people up in this process. And in addition to ethnicity, the other issue of consideration, of course, is gender. As we know, women still makes up much less than men in the same work, and women of color makes less than white women. These type of inequity is still so clear in our boardroom and our halls of power. And given how the economic picture is so bleak, for example, for Black Californians today, and right now, for example, with 40% Latinos in our state, only 25% is Latino in our UC and the CSU as Latinos. So we could tell that the underrepresentation of Latinos or African Americans are extremely serious. So the least we could do is give them the opportunity to get in. That doesn't mean getting in means they will be automatically able to graduate. It's just an equal opportunity. And that's why we need to support this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. We're going to do one more question from a constituent. This is from another member of the League of Women Voters. It's Mary Collins in Berryessa.
Thank you, Terry. Gentlemen, I'd like to take a minute to discuss your solutions to the ongoing homeless population here in Santa Clara County. Recent data indicate that the homeless population here in the county may exceed 7,000 individuals. Although we regularly look to our cities to provide a solution to this crisis, what are your proposals on how the county can contribute to reducing the number of homeless here in Santa Clara County? Thank you.
So sorry, but we're going to need short answers, starting with you, Otto.
Yes, I do believe that the mail-in ballots can be very safe because there is a paper trail. A lot of the problems we have with other voting problems with the debug machines is that there's no way to confirm. So I do believe that the paper trail is important. I think it's important the fact that you don't need to pay postage anymore. So people who receive the ballot can just dump it in the mail after they voted, sign in the back. I think it's also important to make sure that outreach in different languages to every voter early on is very important, that they don't necessarily have to vote on the voting day. They have the option to vote early by mailing in early, or they could vote early by going in 5 to 11 days to these different voting centers throughout the county. The fact that people can drop off the ballot anywhere in the county is absolutely a huge plus than having to force you to vote in only one place. So I think these are great things we've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Kansen Chu.
I think the voters' choice, the Santa Clara Registrar of Voters roll out in the primary election was a success. I have this discussion with the Secretary of the State regarding to the security of the mail-in ballot, and I was reassured many times that with the process that we are implementing are safe. So I'm not worried about that. I think a lot of people on the different camp were trying to suppress the voter turnout and trying to, did a negative campaign against it. But I don't buy negative campaign, and I believe that we have done enough. And we also learned from the last March primary. Moving forward to November, I'm confident it will be a fair election.
That's great. Thank you very much. Otto Lee, Kansen Chu, that's all the time we have today. Good luck with your campaigns. Thanks very much for being with us on Valley Politics.
Thank you for having us, Larry. Really appreciate it.
And thank you, professors. Thank you very much.
We'll be back next month to continue our election coverage with the runoff candidates for San Jose City Council. Meanwhile, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can also catch up on all our previous shows on our website at creatvsj.org or on YouTube by searching for CreaTV San Jose. And now, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching.